Welcome to Let's Relieve Regret, the uplifting podcast where we talk about how to relieve what you're worrying about.
It can feel so good to finally let go. Let go of past hurts, let go of old grudges, let go of self-doubt, self-shame.
The thing is, we aren't always given the tools to let go. We're told to get over it, or it's time to move on. But how do we do that?
We will share our stories, tools, and strategies of how we let go to help you let go.
Let's begin. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Relieve Regret podcast. My name is Victoria Muir-Garcia, and I'm one of your co-hosts, and I'm joined by my other co-host,
Shadoe.
And we're also joined today with a guest. Yay! We're joined by Emily Reagan. Hi, Emily.
Hey there.
Welcome. Emily is a mom of four, a former Air Force spouse, Sheepadoodle owner, and Jill of all trades when it comes to digital marketing and techie skills. We're going to have a good conversation. She's worked behind the scenes as a freelance digital marketer with many creatives, copywriters, and coaches to grow, nurture, and monetize their online audiences. She's the founder of Unicorn Digital Marketing Assistance School. I love the name.
Thank you.
Digital Marketers Work Group, where she helps women advance their digital marketing skills and services to become booked out, in-demand unicorn digital marketing assistants and beyond. Welcome so much, Emily. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be on the show today and talk about things other than virtual assistants.
Yeah. Where are you calling in from?
I am currently living in Richmond, Virginia. We've been here almost 3 years now, which is a long time in my world. And I am hoping to stay here and get the kids through school.
Nice. And what's the weather like there right now?
You know, it is kind of cloudy and a little cool. And my kids had field day, of course. And then I wore shorts because I am not a weather girl.
Yeah. They'll be running around. It'll be all right. Well, it's actually cloudy here in Toronto too, I would say. All right. Well, why don't we start with our check-in? How are you feeling, Shadoe, on a scale of 1 to 10?
Today I'm feeling pretty good. Probably like a full-blown 9 out of 10. I know.
A full-blown 9 out of 10.
Even as I was coming out of my mouth, I was like, I'm an 8, an 8.5. No, I'm a 9. I think I'm a 9 out of 10 today.
That's amazing. I have a client in one of my classes, and I always check at the beginning of class check-in. I have them write it in the chat box because, as you know, all my classes are on Zoom, and I have one participant that's always like 8.23, 9.33, and we all love it. So now we're all into doing the digital points. Emily, how are you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10 today?
I'm feeling pretty good right now. I'm feeling a 9, but that's because I got to volunteer at field day. I saw a baby bird hatch right by my door. I'm so excited. I've been watching these 4 robin eggs and 1 hatch. And then I got a massage. So I'm feeling pretty good. I just need to avoid listening to Taylor Swift's new album because it's very sad. But I'm feeling a 9.
That's a pretty good 9.
Yeah.
I'm giving myself a 6 out of 10. Only because my allergies are killing me. You can probably hear it in my voice, everybody. So I'm going to be blowing my nose quite a bit. But I already kind of feel like a 7 out of 10 just from the energy from both of you. So maybe I'll say 7 out of 10, but I was definitely a 6 out of 10 coming into the call. And I feel like cause for applause. Your cause for applause might be watching a baby bird hatch. Like, how often do you get to see that in real life?
I know, never. I feel like I have because of YouTube and video, but I want to set up my phone on a tripod and watch because it's right by the stairs. You can see in the bushes. Wasn't the best location because I have 4 children and they're going in and out the door. But I just wanted to play and see it. I want to see it.
That is so cool. Do you have a cause for applause, Shadoe?
Well, first I just want to say, Emily, do you have a separate cause for applause? Because Victoria offered one.
Oh, no, I totally
on your behalf. And I just want to make sure maybe you had something prepared that you wanted to chat about.
No, that is really, I'm really sending this picture to friends and I'm judging.
Oh, that's
excited and
darling.
Not, but I guess my cause for applause related to business is we just closed my work group and I had a very lazy launch. I went away for spring break.
Nice.
I went and saw the eclipse and then I had my team. I have a new teammate helping me and it's been such a process getting a membership manager. And so, it wasn't the most perfect launch, but we got 30 new students and I didn't do that much. I mean, it's all in the prep,
Cool.
right? But I wasn't like crazy on social. I kept the energy easy. It was low lift, and yeah, 30 new people.
That's amazing. That's a great
Yeah.
number. And isn't that the definition of work smarter, not harder?
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
did it.
Yeah,
That's
like,
amazing. That's a dream.
I'm now very curious about what low lift means, but maybe you don't want to talk about that today because
well, I think that means not having to show up on social all the time, do the
okay.
webinars, like do all that
Mhm.
stuff. A lot of it was in the prep. I hired a
Cool.
copywriter to help me. I'm used to doing so much on my own. I'm just getting to that phase where I'm bringing in people to help and I'm
Nice.
paying them. And
Good.
it's amazing because, you know, I'm a single mom of 4 right now and I don't need to be
Yeah.
doing it all. So it just felt really good.
That's awesome.
We can both appreciate that because Shadoe and I both also own small businesses, and it's getting to that place where you figure out how to attract people and how to get more people in. And I'm constantly working on that. And I know Shadoe is too. So that's a huge cause for applause.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
That's kind of like,
Awesome.
this is where I want to be. And I got here and I'm doing it. And I've figured out a process. Like that's really awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Shadoe, do you have a cause
I
for
do.
applause?
I think I've talked on the podcast before about like we're talking about small businesses. I've been feeling the pull to go back to like a corporate safe job. I've been feeling it a lot lately, but I just spent about 2 weeks at home. It was 12 days, as pointed out by my father, and whatever. I still think that's 2 weeks, but that's okay. But it also just reminded me that like there are going to be times where I have to take 2 weeks and go up north or things like that, where like I can't do that in a corporate job. So building this business is absolutely still the way I want to go about like making my living, because I also have to make my life, and my life includes long trips to see family members. And I can still do a lot of the work I currently do from my dad's kitchen table, but like I just don't think that would fly in my old corporate environment. So I'm just feeling like that reminder that I've made the right choice and I feel aligned in it. So that's my cause for applause this week.
You know, Shadoe, that's so interesting. I feel like I've been having that, not the thought of going back to corporate, because I know I could never do that. I've been having interesting conversations with people lately about it. Like I'm designing my life backward, and some people don't understand it, right? Like some people are like, why don't you go back to a 9 to 5 job? Like when you first start building your business, you are living with less usually than what you made, but you learn that you can live with less, and then you start building again. But yeah, that's a big thing for me too. Like yesterday I went to the spa because I needed to. So maybe we'll call that my cause for applause. So as many of you know, the last episode that came out before this episode was the Me Too episode. And those of you that have been following me on Instagram, I've made a couple posts about how it's affected me afterwards. For me, after I recorded that episode, I've needed to take quite a few weeks of just making sure that I'm looking after my emotional health and my health, and to be gentle and kind to myself in ways that might be resting in different ways. And as my sister-in-law, thank you, Alex. Alex was on the podcast a few episodes ago too. She was in the podcast called You Are Not a Drop in the Ocean.
You are an ocean in the drop.
You're an ocean in the drop. Yeah. And she was amazing. And she just texted me and was like, you know, I just want to remind you, Victoria, I love you. And there's all different kinds of rest. Rest might be binge watching TV if that's what you need, but take as much rest as you need, because when I tell my story, it lights up parts in my brain when you tell stories of times when you've been through trauma or things, right? And so I wouldn't have been able to go to the spa yesterday if I was working 9 to 5. And if I was working 9 to 5, I probably wouldn't be able to function in my job.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, Shadoe, I consciously made that decision to design my life backwards, where I could say, I know that I need to have a 2-hour walk every day. And I wouldn't be able to do that with a 9 to 5 job. So I'm applauding you for making that decision too. And I'm so happy for you that you're feeling confidence in your choice again. I'm really happy for you. And, you know, I'll back you up whatever you decide to do with your life, because I love you. But, you know, it's nice. It's like an aha moment. It's like this aha moment of gratitude or whatever. And then now you want to start filling it with abundance, right? And let's use the cliche words, but you know what I mean? Right.
Well, and even like traveling on like important days. Like I traveled up there on a Thursday and came back on a Tuesday. again, you're working a 9 to 5, you're really limited to weekends, or if you take a day off. And even then, it seems like everyone takes the same day off, so you don't beat the traffic, when you take that Friday off. So so it just, again, also just felt like, right, like this is what I want, and it's great to be able to answer that question. And what about you, Victoria? Do you have a separate cause for applause?
Yeah, I'm just gonna say the spa was I don't
nice.
I'm not a massage. You had a massage day, that's what you said, right, Emily?
I did.
I'm a water spa person. So there's this new spa that opened up close to Toronto, and it's all outdoors, and it's like hot tubs, saunas, steam rooms, and cold plunge. And you rotate from hot to cold. And then there's like these rest areas with like fireplaces, and you sit in and they bring you like wool blankets, and you wrap yourself in a wool blanket after you've gone through the cold plunge pool, and you sit by the fire and you read a book, and then you just wander around all day in a robe, and they have a restaurant there, and you go to the restaurant and you eat in your robe, and I think I spent 8 hours there yesterday.
Amazing.
I spent the whole day.
Yeah. If you were in Germany, you would be naked doing that.
Yeah, probably.
I did that at Baden-Baden in Germany. And I had a friend come visit me when we were stationed there. I got off the plane. I'm like, let's get naked. Amazing. Forever. But it was amazing because they scrub you down, and then you move around to the different pools. And I need that here in Richmond. I would love that. But like close.
Telling you, these water spas in Canada, they're popping up a lot of these like Scandinave type spas or water spas. So I have my fingers crossed for you that one will show up near Richmond, because it's just a different way of doing the spa versus going in and getting a mani and pedi and a massage. And if that's great for you too, that's great for you too. But this is like a whole day that feels like a vacation. So thank you to my husband for taking me to do that yesterday, and for being so great and caring for me and my mental health. So, okay. Nice. So let me pare it down. My cause for applause is the spa and Christian Bercia.
Nice.
My husband. Nice. There we go.
For making it possible.
For making it possible. That's right. And owning my own business for making it possible. Yay.
It's like all three of ours.
Yeah.
Yay. Solopreneurs, fempreneurs. What do we call ourselves? Entrepreneurs, small business owners.
I just stick with entrepreneur. I like solopreneur as well. I'm a little less interested in like fempreneur or mompreneur, but that's probably just like my own identity stuff. So yeah.
I do like interesting. I have 5 women on my team who are contractors, and every single one of them is going through something hard in life. And I mean, aren't we all?
Yeah.
And it just makes me so happy that I can give them work that gives them freedom and flexibility. And one is traveling to see her dad who's not doing well. And like, she's in Pennsylvania, he's in Florida. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, no, like this is the gift. Like, we're good. Like, we wrapped up our launch. Like, be there with your dad. This is why we do this work and why we're self-employed.
What a gift to be able to be a good boss. I'm a solopreneur right now too. And I like the word solo because I think there's this, like, I was reading somewhere, I was watching a news story or something saying entrepreneurs are people that make up to the definition now somewhere is make up to like 8 million a year. I'm like, that's not an entrepreneur. That's a business owner. Right. So the word entrepreneur has been, everybody calls himself that now. Right. And to acknowledge that, like, you can work really small, or when you decide to build a team, if you need one, that you can still be a great boss and create non-toxic work environments, which is one of my missions in life too. I have many missions in life, as you all know, but be able to say that to your employees, and that you're, contributing to creating workplaces that aren't toxic and workplaces that are supportive. Even though the workplace is like at home, like people probably working out of their homes, but like, you're able to say that to them, and that's great.
As a military spouse, I have moved 12 times in 20 years, technically 19 years. So I'm starting over all the time. Every time I start a new job, back when I'm corporate or nonprofit or whatever, government, whatever job I was lucky to get, starting over, capped at 39,000. I've never made more than 40, and then 10 days of leave. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to go see your parents who are states away? Are you going to go like with your husband and spend quality time because you never see him? Are you ever going to see your friends again? And so for me, a big moment was when I got my dream job, I was an arts director and we did this big arts festival one time a year. I made all the money. And then my grandma's dying the same week. And I already know we got orders to move back to DC.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what do I do? Like, I can't fight for this job when I'm just leaving, and I care. And I always do my best. I want to see my grandma. Like, I felt so tugged in that moment. And I've never been back to a 9 to 5 since.
Well, that was your aha moment, maybe, to be like, I need to design backwards, right? I need to figure out what my job is so that I can have the freedom in my life.
Because I know who's important. I know who and what's important. And my job is always, spit me out. Like a boss changes and you get hosed, Yeah.
Figuring out what's important was key for me too. What were you going to say, Shadoe?
No, I really love this reframe, because I feel like sometimes people who have their own businesses are seen as people without stability, but it almost seems like Emily actually has more stability by being in her own business.
Yeah.
And that's really cool to me.
Yeah, I like that reframe too.
I had to reframe my chaotic resume too. And this took some time, Shadoe, but you can look at my resume and you can see Emily has a new job every 18 months.
Right.
And I felt embarrassed. I felt like that makes me look flaky or like I'm not committed, when actually I get in and I care so much. I probably do too much and over deliver, right? Forget to go to the bathroom and like be like a good little employee. But I was so embarrassed by that. And you're not allowed to say like, oh, are you a military spouse? That's illegal.
Right,
However, you can look and you can tell. It says Ramstein, Germany, it's like not normal. And I got a job when we were living in Oklahoma City. And my boss says, I knew I could get you for cheap. And he didn't mean it like that.
Yeah.
What he meant was no one else would see the value. And he could scoot me up for a lower paid PR director role than I was actually worth. But what I got in that moment was, wow, all of my experience added up, and he saw it and he got it. And if he can get it, other people will. Like, I wasn't embarrassed anymore, even though he said it in a really crappy way.
Well, that also means like you weren't being paid your worth either.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a nonprofit. Like they had money. I'm like desperate for a job, right? We're only there for so long. So that's
Well, this went somewhere I didn't think it was going to go. I knew we were going to have a good conversation. We haven't even gotten into it yet. Should we start in on our regrets? Shadoe, are you ready to share?
I'm absolutely ready.
All right, go for it.
Great. I have an experience I need to let go of in order to move forward. I regret admiring cynicism. Being quote unquote brutally honest became a core part of my identity during my teens and 20s. I used to think cynical people were the smartest people in the room, and I mistakenly believed that cynicism automatically equaled trust. I would also do things like seeking out nonfiction books and watch lots of late night TV. And although I still enjoy these things, I wouldn't consider them better than fiction books or daytime TV like I did in the past. The consequences of holding on to this point of view is that I find myself second guessing the positive changes I'm making in my life. For most of my 30s, the thing I've worked on the most has been leaving this cynical behavior behind. I know that I can be honest without being brutal, which, to be honest, was actually more cruel, and it didn't really have the impact I wanted anyway. The second guessing comes in because when I felt like this before, I sincerely believed that for a really long time, when I saw a happy person, they were being delusional. I remember thinking that, like, how could you be so ditzy? Like, how dare you be happy when there's so much terrible things in the world? Now, I know that this also sounds like depression, and yes, it could have been that. But I think what it really came down to is I was a really, really sensitive kid. Like all the way through until I became a teenager. And I got hurt a bunch of times being like that. So I developed this like really spiky armor in my teens that was like really sarcastic, really cynical, and I loved making a mean joke, whether it was at me or someone else, So what I need to do now is forgive myself and say, I did everything I could with the tools I had at the time, and that is okay. I forgive myself for the fear I had of looking like an airhead when being happy, because I know now that those little moments of joy and happiness are life preservers. To have these moments of joy is not naive. In fact, they help us navigate the waves of horrible news, tragedies, and so on. I now know that each act of kindness has a ripple effect, and that being friendly is one of my superpowers. I find it really easy to instantly connect with people, and downplaying that part of myself to like keep up this smarty pants identity has only made me miserable. I'm thrilled to keep adding positive changes to my daily life. When I'm upset and I feel that pull towards that cynical deep pit of despair within me, I hold on to my life preservers. I am capable of enjoying moments of happiness and worthy of spreading that joy to others.
Do you want feedback or do you just
Sure.
want to be heard? Oh my
Sure.
gosh, I love this so much. I love this one so much. Both
I know
Emily
I
and
was
I
just
were
kind of
just
reading
both
it. I tried
nodding
to
our
be more
heads.
natural. I try to be more natural and not just read it word for word, but like I really worked on this one. So I'm like, I'm just going to read it word for word. So if it came
love it
off a little
so much.
monotone, that's why. But
Okay, can I ask a couple of curious questions first? And I have
yes.
a feeling Emily's going to want to jump in too because both of us were just nodding our head, going,
I could just
"Yeah."
relate. I could just relate, but it was really good.
Thank you.
What are your life preservers?
Like little things, like it can be like something major, like, okay, I have a great relationship and my dog's really wonderful and my friends are great, but it's also really just like silly turns of phrase. So I just had a rental car when I went home, and the license plate started with DBZN. And my brother was like, "Oh, cool, Dragon Ball Z." And his girlfriend was like, "What are you talking about? It says Doobie Zone." And I was like, "It does say Doobie Zone," because that was my first thought, but I never shared it. And, like those kind of like little moments of silliness, those are my life preservers. Like noticing those cute little glimmers of like, let's
Glimmers.
just have like these little jokes and those kinds of things. And then on the way back, actually, I was on the highway and this truck was like, there was no one on the road. So I don't know why this truck had to be so obnoxious about it, but like passed me very like obnoxiously. And then when he passed me, I noticed that his license plate was BB and then 80008.
Boobs.
Just not even boobs, just boob. BB boob, like with a lot of O's. And then I'm just like cracking up. Like I'm not mad at this guy for like his wackadoo driving, and I'm sorry to put his license plate just out there, but it was so funny to me. Like then I'm just like driving and laughing. Like
Finding the everyday joy. That's a
yeah.
skill, right?
Yes.
Well, do you think it's a skill that you've like honed? Because you're talking about you kind of regret being cynical.
I
Do you
think
think
noticing,
go ahead.
you go ahead. I think we're on the same wavelength here. I think just noticing things can be a skill that you can use for positive or negative, right? Like similarly, I was watching TV with my family and a lot of them kept being like, "Well, that actor looks really old now." Or, "Oh, that person's hair, I would never have that hair." And things like that where I was like, "Why though? Why waste your time saying these things out loud?" Like, and I get that they're just using that as like a pressure relief because they feel lots of negativity within them. But like, at the same time, I think it is just if you're someone who's a noticer, you can notice positive or you can notice negative. And like, again, you shouldn't just hold in all the negative, but like, yeah.
I was going to ask, do you think there's a difference or do you see a difference between cynicism and pessimism? And were you being a cynic or were you being pessimistic?
No, I think I was being cynical because I liked the sharpness of it. Like I really liked it as a tool because it made me feel really smart. Like being pessimistic is just being sad. Cynical is being really smart and and maybe not being smart, but like appearing smart. Because like you can make these really cutting jokes and things or say things. Yeah.
Like you kind of mentioned like talk show hosts and stuff. You kind of look up to
yeah,
that like kind of cutting jokes. Yeah. Okay. So at one point you said it might be because I was depressed, but I would say pessimism might be more connected to depression. The cynicism might be more connected to like a learned behavior to get attention or a learned behavior to soothe yourself, maybe.
Maybe, and also maybe just protection,
Yeah,
right? Like
to protect yourself.
if I'm the type of person who makes a really like nasty joke, then no one's gonna come to me with their nasty jokes, or they might, or like, you know what I mean? Like it kind of became like a defense mechanism. But yeah, I think it's also like at a time when I was feeling really down, like it did feel good. It felt great to be super cynical. and like get like, meet up with someone and the two of you are just like meh, 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 meh. Well, meh, 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 and meh, 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 and like you just get
really
into that.
good to
Oh, it feels
complain with someone
awesome.
else. It
Oh,
feels
it
so
feels
good,
like
doesn't it?
physically great.
Yeah,
But
physically great.
yeah, physically, it felt
Yeah.
physically great to just like bitch.
Yeah.
Right? And of course you're still gonna have those people in your life, but I was letting it seep in everywhere, and it wasn't making me a better person. It wasn't making me a happier person. Yeah.
What do you think, Emily?
I wrote down self-protection and I wrote down judgment, but I also want to ask you, just curious, I know it wasn't making you feel better, but did you hurt anyone during this? Like, I'm just kind of wondering about the regret.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely did. The regret is also that like what's happening now is I still like I almost like I know I can't go back and like apologize to every person I hurt when I acted this way because I wasn't really keeping track.
Yeah.
Right. So how do I go back and like actually apologize to these people? Like, I don't think I can. I can just make like maybe some more positive change now. But yeah, I can actually absolutely think of like three distinct examples. And then knowing that that's how I was behaving, there's probably countless other examples that I don't even remember.
So I think there's a fine, I don't know, it's like fine line. I feel like I say that too much, but there's kind of this balance between, we've talked about regrets in the past before. We can't just keep apologizing for everything in the past either. We shouldn't let the weight of that, I should go back and apologize to every single person, weigh us down. We have to let that go too. And that's why we have that line at the end when we tell our regrets, like, that's who I was then, and this is who I am now, and acknowledging that we change.
Yeah.
We change from year to year. We change from month to month. We change based on our life experiences. And I think what you're showing, Shadoe, really is huge change. And you're so open and vulnerable about like who you were in many of your regrets. And I learned from that because I need to be more open about who I used to be too. So I used to be an angry human being as well. But right, you're so good at being like, yeah, man, this is who I was. But I love today's regret for you because it's one of the first times that I've heard you say, but this is who I am now. And this is what I'm choosing to focus on now. And I have like goosebumps right now because it's making me feel so happy to hear you say that, and happy for you to talk about like focusing on the positive things or having the balance of both, because we know when we only focus on the positive things, that's toxic positivity, everybody. We've talked about that a lot too. We need to feel all the feelings, but you're talking about mindset shift and perspective shifts into optimism.
Yeah, well, and that's why the regret is kind of like it shows up still, right? Like it was such a core part of myself that when I am maybe being a little bit more bubbly and just kind of like having a good time, I do start like I can feel that little monster coming back up and being like, how dare you? How dare you? You were just at the hospital with your aunt and now you're making jokes at dinner. Like, who are you? Like, that's
So
not
judging
cool.
yourself.
It's a lot of judgment.
Like,
but like,
how dare you be happy? You don't deserve to be happy.
Not that you don't deserve to be happy, but you shouldn't showboat. Like it's almost like a showboating. Yeah, I don't want to show off that like I'm happy when all this other awful stuff's going on. And it's because when I used to see like when I was behaving this way, I literally saw that like as a threat. Or not a threat, but like I would see happy people and be like disgusted. I'd be like, ew, why?
Yeah, you use the word airhead.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? Or what did that mean to you?
It meant someone who like didn't watch the news and didn't like stay abreast of world issues. And, like to me, that was so important. It was like such a key part of like, I'm better than other people because I watch the news and I focus on nonfiction and I don't have time for silly little games, like that kind of stuff. And I feel like even when I would slip into maybe a more silly personality when I was younger, there was a lot of judgment and a lot of like, well, when I grow up, I'll stop being that way. And I admired people who were really in that more cynical point of view. And as I'm getting older, I'm like, oh, this is gross. I don't like being around this. I now really value people being kind. And like, I didn't really realize that kindness was a conscious choice. I was like, oh, people are kind because they have easy lives. Those kind people, they just have it really good. So it's easy for them to be happy.
Yeah, kindness is a choice, right? And you
Yeah.
could have $1 in your pocket and choose to be kind.
Totally.
Or $1 in your bank account and choose to be
Yeah.
kind. How interesting, Shadoe. That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Right? It's
So
like your brain was relating being positive
with being naive. Like that's like to me,
yeah.
I
And
really
then being
believed that for a
cynical,
long
you couldn't
time.
be kind. When you're
Yeah.
pessimistic, you're smarter, but when you're kind, you're
Mhm.
not smart. That's I
Yes,
think that's
I strongly believed that for a long time.
Emily,
And
I
I
see you
regret
nodding your head
feeling
a
that
lot.
way.
I
Yeah.
just flash back to high school because I had that same moment, those same judgments, and I was transferred into a new high school junior year and I called myself an anti-cheerleader. Like, no offense if you did cheerleading, but
Yeah,
I wore
yeah.
my baggy Jinkos, didn't go to lunch, sat in the back of the journalism room and judged everyone. And I can remember like they came across really ditzy but they were happy. And I'm like, I'm so smarter than you, you know, like
Mhm.
and not, it was a judgment. And I was thinking about that too, but like nobody, okay, I don't even know where I want to go here. I remember two girls talking, being like, these are the best days of our lives. And I just remember being like, there's so much
Totally.
coming. There's
Yeah.
so much
Like you're
more
peeking in
coming.
high school.
Yeah,
Right?
like
I'm using quotation marks here, everybody. Have you ever heard that term?
when
Like
really I was self-protecting and just reverse judging them, which did not feel good. And so now no one in my high school know who I am. Like I'm completely like a nobody. Like I just isolated myself, but it was protection because I was new. I saw the new kids all come in. I saw the pretty kids separated and immediately be instantly popular, including my twin brother.
Oh,
and then I was like over here in the misfits, you know? So I had a lot of that going through my head, but you know, what's funny is I'm an Enneagram 7. I actually like to have fun. I probably hide my feelings behind a facade and positivity, but that I like grew into that. And I had to have awareness that it just took time and development. And, you know, so that's why I was like, oh my God, I could relate to this.
Oh, I really like you talking about the misfit part of it all. And I think that's why, like, even when I do start to feel like if I feel judged by someone in the neighborhood or whatever, I feel it prickling back up because it's like, well, they don't know I'm the smartest person they've ever met. Like I really would train my brain. I don't know if maybe that's just a natural like teenager response to being left out or whatever else it might be. But like, yeah.
You know what it was for me? Because I just nailed that there. I wasn't known for having looks like my little blonde, blue-eyed sister. Right. Like I realized I could sell more Girl Scout cookies if I pushed her to the front when I knocked on doors. Wow. So like I classified myself as, all right, I'm not the pretty one. Everyone's always comparing me to my brother. How can I develop this side of my personality and use it? And I think that's what I did is like, hey, I'm smart. That's how I like stuck my personality flag into that.
Yeah. Yep. That rings true for me too. So yeah, really, really great.
I'm going to bring up Mean Girls.
Okay. Like,
because I think the movie. So
the movie. Okay.
For us, the one that did it come out in the 90s or 2000s?
It was 2004. 2003. It was 2003 or 2004.
I think there's a reason like Mean Girls and almost like Legally Blonde in some ways too. It brought forward all of those, I don't know what they are, cliches, but you know that scene in Mean Girls where they're like, that table's the misfits, that table's the plastics, that table's the artsies, that table's the whatever. It like took real life and exaggerated it, right? But the reality is that happens.
Oh, totally.
And then every single group is judging each other, right? So like in Mean Girls, when she becomes one of the plastics, her misfit group starts judging her. I mean, hopefully I'm not giving away the movie, everybody. They're remaking the movie now. It's been a musical, but everybody watched the 2004 version. It's the best. But I mean, we're almost talking about that movie in some ways, right? And I think that's why that movie is so impactful for so many people is that people can really relate to it. And it's about judging ourselves and judging others. And it's interesting. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with a friend, and I've said this before on this podcast. One of the things that I learned out of being judged, because I've been judged a lot in my life too, and the protections that I've put up, and in analyzing my female relationships, my friendships, my female relationships, or I guess just my relationships in general too, is I was actually talking to someone that was giving me feedback on the podcast. They were telling me how much they appreciated it. And it's actually changed their relationship with some of their friends too about, do you want feedback? Right. And I was like, Shadoe and I didn't mean for that to happen, but ultimately now we do mean for that to happen. Like this podcast has evolved into this place of like, we want to model how you can have deep conversations, meaningful conversations, or conversations where everyone feels heard and everyone has a voice amongst like female friendships or female relationships, or just in general too, because we have had men on the podcast too. But it also made me realize, like in my development through therapy and my personal development, all the experiences that I've had in life, is judgment's a huge one. And I think, Shadoe, when you're talking about being a cynic, I really feel cynicism and judgment go hand in hand, and pessimism and judgment can go hand in hand as well. And one of the shifts that I made in a lot of my female relationships about like 10 years ago, and all of my female friends, I've become much stronger friendships with them, and rooted friendships and supportive friendships, is I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to give unsolicited advice. I'm not here to tell you that what I think you're doing with your life is wrong, because I don't want you to do that to me. I'm just here to support you and love you. That's my job as a friend.
Yeah.
That's my job as a friend. And if I can demonstrate that and have friends that do that for me, because I think even especially among women, like I think men don't care as much. We're like, yeah, whatever he's doing, whatever. It's like, but women are like, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with the choice she's making. I don't agree with the job she's like. We do get like petty with each other in our female relationships. I don't agree that she's selling her house, or I don't agree that she's quitting her job, or I don't like she's making a mistake. She's making a mistake. She's gonna regret it. Like we do get petty in our relationships and judging our female friends. And when I really made that shift, my friendships became better. And I do think that that's something that Shadoe and I are trying to demonstrate with this podcast too, is like, how do you have a conversation? You do a check-in. How are you feeling? We've thrown the positivity in there with the cause for applause. And then, do you want feedback, or did you just want to be heard? Do you want my advice? Or do you want, I'm trying to stop myself from giving unsolicited advice.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think your regret kind of goes into that a little bit too, is like, as we grow as human beings, learning how to drop the judgment or let go of the judgment, I think that's a huge human skill. And I think it can just make your quality of relationships and quality of your emotional and mental health better too. And I think that's kind of what you're explaining, is you regret being cynical and judgmental, and that you're learning how to drop that. And at the end of your regret, you're like, I feel happier. I'm proud of myself for feeling happier. I'm proud of myself for seeing those things. And that's huge. Did you just hear Olivia meow in the background?
I did not. Emily, do you have anything else you'd like to share about what I've shared today, or what Victoria has said either?
I really don't have anything brilliant, but I think it's letting yourself evolve too. And as you were talking too, I thought, I think this is why all those personality assessments are fun.
Yeah.
You kind of get like a new way to look at yourself and have it more data. Like you're not like, oh, this is how I was and this is my old pattern, but like I actually see, I'm trying to think of a good example, and I'm going back to the Enneagram here, but like, oh yeah, these are me. I mean, you can choose to look at your zodiac sign and like relate yourself to that.
Information about yourself. And I say that a lot, right? But I have the podcasts, and then I teach so many different types of classes, like brain fitness classes, like emotional health classes, meditation, fitness, whatever. But whenever I'm teaching something that's knowledge, I'm like, this is knowledge of knowledge. This is how your brain works. This is why I like the science stuff or whatever, because it's data about yourself. Yes. And then you start to get a deeper understanding of yourself. And then you start to get a deeper self-awareness. And then you get a deeper self-awareness of where you exist in the world and how you influence the relationships you're in as well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And information is interesting about ourselves. We should be curious about ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then your daughter becomes a wannabe cheerleader and you eat your words.
And then you're like, I'm not going to judge this. Okay.
Like, I bought her.
I'm all in. I'm going to support you. Here we go. Well, Shadoe, is there anything else you want to say about your regret?
No, I would just say, like, with the personality test stuff too, like, I know there's like some criticism out there about the Myers-Briggs stuff. But Myers-Briggs is the only test out of all the personality tests that no matter who I get it from, no matter if it's the free version or the paid version or whatever, I get the same result every time, no matter how I've changed or grown.
Oh.
And I go, wait, what? And I feel like sometimes I even try to like maybe answer a little untruthfully just to see if I would get a different answer. No, every single time I'm an ENFP, but my E and my I kind of are like 50-50. It's like 51-49. Yeah. Like they're so close. I could be either extrovert or introvert, like Victoria was saying at the beginning of the episode. But the NFP is just, it's in me. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, I don't know why. But then when I look at the descriptions of it, it's like, you're destined to try all the things. And I'm like, oh, I am much happier when I have variety. I'm not very regimented. I do like having a lot of variety in my life. And that's also helped me be less judgmental of being someone who likes to jump from thing to thing to thing, because it's not like this big flaw that I have to overcome. It's just, okay, knowing that about myself, how do I design my life, knowing that I need that variety to thrive? So, yeah.
You brought it full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we've got. The more we can learn about ourselves and improve our relationship with ourselves, the better our life is going to be. Like, this is it. This is what we've got. It's not a dress rehearsal. Improve your relationship with yourself, exactly what you're saying, and get that knowledge so that you can start designing your life and thriving. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Shadoe, you're so motivational today.
Thank you. I love it. Well, yeah, I'm then done if we want to transition over to Emily's reveal.
Mine is completely different.
Good.
Great. Shadoe just said she likes different things, and we like diversity and we like variety. So
yeah, part of me wanted to keep that going, but I'm gonna reverse it. So perfect. I think I have a little bit of a pre-story background to fill in.
Perfect.
You know, I mentioned I was a military spouse and was married to my Air Force husband for 20 years. We got married when I was 22. So whenever I say never, I always break my word. And I said I wouldn't get married in college, and I did by like 30 days because he was going off to Korea for a year, and so we rushed it a little bit. But you know, our whole marriage, you hear the stats on divorce, like 40-50% people will get divorced. And I can remember kind of like looking like, it's not going to be us, won't be me. And then I also remember hearing this other kind of cliche advice, like, okay, make sure you have your own credit card, your own stash of money, like blah, 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 like take care of yourself as a woman. And now I find myself after 20 years of marriage facing a divorce and a restart for my whole life after I put everything into his bucket. And gladly would repeat that. I don't mean that I would go back and like not have my 4 children and not get married. And I chose this lifestyle, was familiar to me with my dad being Air Force. I loved moving around, getting to see the world, but I did not put money into my own IRA, you know, just like that very tactical thing. And I know there's emotions behind this too. But when I pitched myself for this podcast, I said, I wish I had put money into my own IRA and not made him just the focus. We put everything into his career, and thank God he was able to finish a 20-year Air Force career and get the retirement and the perks that come with that. Cause that's what we're all striving to hit 20 years and then you're free, or you actually kind of want to say 23 because it's even more money. And then next thing you know, you're in 30, but that was always the emphasis, is his career. And then I was second fiddle, kind of following him around. Like I said, taking any job I could get. I learned so much in the process. I became so freaking adaptable. It's built into a beautiful skill set that has made me very successful online. So like, thank God I took some steps when I started to see problems with his mental health 7 years ago, but I didn't do even what I should have 7 years ago. I should have like had that account. I mean, at one point I had a little secret account, but I just was very like naive, like that's not going to be us. And so now I'm in the situation where he's depleted his IRA to pay for drugs and alcohol. And he has been on a severe mental health decline. And now I'm leaving. And it's not just about the money. So I'll say that. I know that it's not just about the money, but I'm like looking at finances, figuring out how to separate what little marital assets we have. And I just get angry because I'm like, we didn't even start my IRA till a couple years ago. And it's considerably less. And now his is gone. So that was my security, my future, my whole like vision for life. And I'm in a good place where I do feel excited. I feel relief. Like I'm happy about this. Like I'm excited to move on. But I'm getting kind of stuck on the financial part because I'm like starting over. I'm starting over. So that is my big regret. And I almost wish I had listened when women say that to each other. Like, have your own credit card, start a savings. Like I always paid the bills. I'm an independent military spouse. Like I have to, he's gone all the time. Like I'm not this trophy Stepford wife over here either, so there's a lot to uncover there, but I'll just stop talking now.
Do you want feedback or do you just want to be heard?
Of course. I feel like so many people will relate to this because it's, you talked about the different kinds of regrets people have. And yeah, I think it's very common.
Yeah, I think financials are a really big one. I also just want to say for our Canadian listeners, IRA is the equivalent of our RRSPs. And I know we have Australian listeners. It's your retirement saving plan, right? That's what your IRA is, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's your retirement saving plan. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say a few things. One is I want to give you permission to let go of the shame around it because there's a lot of shame around money, right? And there's a lot of shame around being a strong woman, right? Like you even said within it, like, I'm not just a Stepford wife here. Of course you're not. We can hear it. Like you're amazing. Like the feedback you've given Shadoe today, the conversation we've already had, and finding a way through that shame, because shame doesn't help us, right? Shame is I am a bad thing, and guilt is I did a bad thing. And we all do bad things, but you're not a bad person, right? And the other thing is thinking about what does money represent to us? And I think as a society, we build a lot of shame into money. We build a lot of pride and celebration around money. Like if you work hard, you'll make money, right? And then you'll be a hero, right? But I think we build a lot of shame into our relationship with money. And then I also think as women, we build a lot of shame into asking for money and acknowledging that money is just a tool, especially as small business owners, right? All three of us are small business owners, is like asking for your worth. And money is just a tool to show your worth. So little side story, but when I was going through my burnout, I was working a 9-to-5 job and I had to leave. But one of the things was I kept saying yes to more work, but I was never getting a raise. It's okay to ask for more because that's in society how we show worth. So let's be honest. In society, we show worth with money. That's okay. It's okay to admit that, right? But it's also okay to say that it's not the only thing that makes my worth. I mean, you got married at 22. That's so young. The human brain isn't fully developed until 25. I got married at 25, so I'm not judging that you got married young because I got married young too. But to set ourselves up for success, we don't know how to set ourselves up for success at 22.
Nope.
The frontal cortex isn't developed yet, so we don't know how to. In the frontal cortex, that is our sense of consequence. So we don't actually have the ability to do forward thinking at 22 at all, to think big picture at 22 or consequences of action. So forgive yourself for that.
Yeah.
You're in love.
Yeah. And I definitely never had that ability to have a vision for myself. I think being military as well. As a child,
and you grew up in that too. You're saying your dad was also in the military.
There's no future. You're like, wherever, I'll be somewhere different tomorrow, but I don't know where. So you don't have visions.
You had a really different experience, like growing up, like a really unique one. And then you married into that experience too. And that programmed your brain to perceive things differently. And you were probably trained that way. So that's why I say, forgive yourself for that. Forgive yourself for that. Those were the patterns that you learned. And I love that you also said, I have great kids that came out of it. I don't regret that part. And right. And those things. Right. And the other thing I want to say, and then I'm gonna let Shadoe talk because I can see her writing and she's getting ready, is I also think there's this shame built in. I don't know how old you are. I'm 42, but like
40,
there's this.
I'm 43.
Okay, so there's this shame built in kind of around 40, around like. Do you remember Freedom 55? Those commercials when we were kids?
No.
Maybe it was a Canadian thing.
It's a Canadian thing.
Is it? There was there was a retirement firm that was like, Freedom 55, you can retire at 55. And these commercials were everywhere when we were kids, right? There's this shame built into somehow at 40, it's like, if you haven't made it yet, you're not going to make it. And if you're not financially stable at 40, then you're a failure. Yeah. And people start over all the time. And what if, let's play the what if game. What if your company explodes and you're having $100,000 months? It's possible. Yep. You've learned how to live off of a military salary, let's say, right? Am I wrong, right?
Yeah.
You know how to budget. You know what to do with money. And there's so much time left. This is what I say to you. I'm going to live to be 100. I don't know about you. That's my plan. Right? So I still have 60 years left. I have more time left than what I've lived. You can do a lot in that time, right? You can do a lot in what you choose to do with your money. It almost kind of relates to Shadows a little bit, as like, do we judge ourselves with the pessimism, or do we let go of the judgment of ourselves? Yeah. And I also think it can happen to anyone. You could be homeless at 60. Like, we don't know. This world is crazy, right? So I don't have a lot of, when I had my mental breakdown, we had to use all my retirement savings and I had to sell my house. So I totally understand how you're feeling, because we had to live off of that because I couldn't work.
What a blessing, right?
What a blessing. But now I'm starting over again. Yeah. And I think those things are big. Financial regrets are big, but yeah, if we let that bog us down from moving forward, then we can lose sight and live in that shame. And there's so much potential there for you.
There's something you said there. First of all, I have the ability to go make money, and I'm doing it now. I'm in the, growth stage of my business. Like, I'm setting up the systems to be able to scale. Like, I'm going to get there, and I feel certain about that. And thank God I started freelancing for fun and saw that potential and updated my skills and made myself relevant and marketable, right? After a big baby break, that's really hard for a lot of us. So thank God the online space gives us the opportunity. But what I think it stems from is something you're saying too, because I know I can make more and I know there's time, but I think it kind of goes back to that original resume story and almost like comparing myself to other people. Yep. And some friends that friend who knew she wanted to be a pharmacist at 16, like, so freaking jealous of those types, who's got the house with the pool. They're not moving, like, they're grounded and they're secure. And meanwhile, I've been like moving all the time. Like, I don't have equity in a house. I've been moving. And so I think I look at some of my peers who are also class in 1999. I might not have talked to them in high school, but they're like, I see them doing well and I'm like, oh God. And I think you covered this on a recent show. Like, it's not that I'm not doing well, but like, I should be there, or I should have that. I think that's happening.
Yeah. We're judging ourselves against other people. Yeah. And it even goes back to our beginning conversation when we first hit record, is like the choice to build small businesses and to design our lives the way that we want to design our lives. And the way that I kind of look at it, and I'm not going to lie, there's days where I'm like, oh my God, I'm failing, right? Like, we have those days. But if I was still in my 9-to-5 job, I'd already hit my glass ceiling. Yeah. And I don't have a glass ceiling.
Neither. And I would hate being a pharmacist. I would hate it. You talked about variety. Like, do you know the stats on them getting addicted to?
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
I would hate it, being locked in a little, CVS all the time.
Yeah, with no windows.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I guess I just have one question where like, what do you think would have changed your mind when you were back in that like, oh, that's
Mm.
never going to happen to us, right? Because people warned you, they gave you all the warnings,
Mhm.
but like I'm with you. I'm currently married and I would never heed any of these warnings.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, was there something that someone could have said to change your mind or what like that's
Well,
my first question. Do you think there's something like that really would have changed your decision at like 22, 25, 30?
I'm just thinking like I see the stats a lot in the media and articles, and that's kind of
Mm,
the advice I got. It was not my inner circle. I think someone in my inner circle saying or watching
right.
someone else get financially, I don't want to say ruined or destroyed or
Yeah,
like
yeah,
upset
yeah.
or whatever. I think that would have probably changed my perspective rather than like, oh, this is happening on Desperate Housewives. Like maybe
Of
I don't even know if that
course.
was a plot, but
Yeah.
like, it was so like removed. I think it somebody in my inner circle, but it also would have been a time where we had extra money because a lot of times we
Mm-hmm.
were, I was piddling around freelancing or living off of the military salary, which isn't amazing, but like we were comfortable. But it's not like
Yeah,
I have gobs to just.
of
I think
course.
I'm actually going to go on a little tangent here. I think there's a lot of resentment too, because for years I'm the stay-at-home mom raising the kids, not
Mm,
wanting to spend $40 to go get my nails done because I
right.
feel guilty about it, or like it's gonna like put us into the red for the month, and I'm trying not to do credit card debt. And I mean, we have just enough. Like I have
Mm-hmm.
so much privilege, like I need to address that, but not all the things for the extra. And so I think I saw that as an extra, like, oh, I'll do that maybe one day. Maybe one day I'll have
Maybe
my
one
own
day,
little
yeah.
thing. But I mean, we got married so young, everything was
Yeah.
communal. We started with nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we a lot of times talk about how like a positive change is just around the corner. Like you can always change or whatever. But on the flip side of that, the other way can happen too. And like that's so scary to consider. But you
Yeah.
didn't know then. You didn't know that like because like you were both building it, right? So it
Yeah.
made sense to stay both doing it. And so yeah, I think I mean, not think, I am making that same choice right now,
I
you
think I
know?
even had
Me
judgy
too.
thoughts about people who have separate bank accounts, and you're like, ooh,
Absolutely.
you're not putting your money together. You're not going to stay married. Like, I think I
Hmm.
even have some of those like
Yeah.
cynical, judgy thoughts happening too, but I get
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah.
I
now.
had unsolicited advice from friends about that because when I first got married, we kept separate bank accounts. On the other side, yeah,
Hmm.
right. So
We
that
kept,
unsolicited
yeah.
judgment, that unsolicited advice, right?
Yeah, we keep separate bank accounts, but it's not like we don't know what's in each other's accounts. Like
Okay.
Yeah,
I do our taxes, he does other stuff. Like there's no secret money. And every once in a while we hope there's secret money. We'll be talking, being like, oh man, Christmas is coming up again. You got any secret money? It's like, no, do you? No. It's like
yeah,
literally not a
we're
lie.
similar.
It's just we don't
Yeah,
have it. So then we have to become really resourceful and think of something to do for Christmas presents or whatever. And we always work it out. But like, yeah, so I get nervous though. Like I hear a story like this. Again, I just met you, Emily, but like from a peer that I'm like, oh man, because it could happen in an instant, right? And yeah, so I just want to say thank you for even sharing that with me because I think it's having an impact on me and will have an impact on our listeners that even if you're in this like I don't want to call it a fantasy world, but because it's my real life, but it does feel like a fantasy sometimes. So when I hear, yeah, 40 to 50%, I'm like, well, good thing I'm in that other 50%. Like
Right?
immediately, that's what I think. I never consider myself the stat. I always consider myself not the stat.
Yeah. Yeah. I
well, not to
can.
sound toxically positive, because you
Yeah.
know that I hate toxic positivity, but
Mm,
I was there and I survived. And that's all I
mm-hmm,
want to say is
mm-hmm,
one of my favorite things to say to myself in terms of self-talk. I can do hard things and I've survived hard things already. And I was there.
mm,
I did drain all of my savings. I did have to sell my house to survive. We were afraid of being homeless because I had to leave work for medical reasons and work stopped supporting me. I did have to rebuild my life, and I'm still rebuilding in many ways, but I can look back and it's really changed my perspective on the importance of money versus the importance of emotional health, mental health, relationships, joy, wonder. What do I need in my life to survive? Because the reality is I probably wouldn't have survived if I'd stayed at that job just for the money. My mental health was deeply declining. So I can say that I've been there at the bottom and I've survived. I don't know if that's helpful for you to hear, but we can survive hard things and we can lean on our relationships and lean on support, and we can survive hard things. And maybe that sounds privileged to say, I don't know, but yeah, I've been there. I've been in the place of fear. I've been there. And my other reason for saying that is that it can happen to anybody. So I never judge anyone that's homeless or struggling or whatever, because it can literally happen to anybody. But we can survive, and there's things that are more important than material things. 100%. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying now.
Okay. No, you're making a lot of sense to me, Victoria, but I don't know how to say this without criticizing the other person. So I just want to.
You can criticize me. Go for it.
Okay. Not you. No. I'm saying, so for the people who do end up following a very like specific plan, not specific, but like, and I don't want to call it standard either, because everyone's life is layered and interesting once you get to know them. But when you see someone who's done kind of the defined path and they're hitting all those milestones, that's really cool. And here's where my criticism comes in, but they're not protected if something bad happens. They might be. Maybe I'm projecting, but
what do you mean?
Like emotionally.
Like, they're not protected emotionally. So someone that has savings and everything, but they're not protected emotionally. Is that what you're saying?
I think possibly. I think because, they make sure to stay such a like a standard path and they don't deviate, that when something maybe does get thrown into the path, they completely fall apart.
They don't have the self-awareness or the emotional tools, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. And then maybe they do. So this could just be a complete misjudgment. But I think what's happening when I hear stories like yours, Emily, is I think you're actually building fracture points. Like sometimes your bone after you fracture, you've healed it. So now you are stronger, you are more resilient, you're more able to handle another curveball thrown your way. And so I think that can be really beautiful, but it's so difficult to appreciate it when you're in it, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
It's so hard when you're in it. And again, I've been in it, right? Like money is probably one of the things that I worry about the most, I'll be honest. And again, I think we're pre-programmed into it. Like we really are in our like capitalist North American society, right? And yeah, it's hard in it. And like, there's so many like cliche quotes and things that you can say, but I'm like, yeah, but it's true.
Right.
Like, the one that's like, when you're on your deathbed, are you going to look back and be like, I wish I'd saved that $5? Or are you going to be like, I wish I'd had better relationships? Like, yeah, it's so easy to hear those things, right? But when you're in it, you're like, I don't want to hear that. Like, you're blocking it, because kind of back to what you were saying too, Shadoe, and yours is like, it feels so good to be in the negative. It feels so good.
It feels soothing.
So good to worry. It feels so good to worry.
Yeah. Okay. So I think the cliche that was applying to my point is that thing where like calm seas don't make seasoned sailors.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Where that's what I'm hearing from your story, Emily, is that you have now like sailed through something like a storm, and now you're in calmer waters again, and like that feels good, but the next time a storm's coming, you have the experience to navigate it versus being like thrown into it again at an older age, at a time where you don't have those skills built. Like, yeah, and I could be wrong.
Yeah. And if I play the what if game, like what if I had stayed in Oklahoma City? I was like working up the ladder. I won top 40 under 40.
Nice.
And I did get the cush PR job in the energy company. like what if? But I don't think I would be any happier, you know, just because I had more money. And I mean, I do feel good about this, and it's helping me stay on track because I'm in the middle of the Bermuda Triangle right now with everything going on. But it's not a better life. Like I love my little life, like I do.
Oh my gosh,
it sucks right now.
Can I ask you something? I think that talking about money is one of the hardest things to talk about publicly. So now you've just said it on this podcast. Do you feel less shame?
Do I?
Like,
yeah.
Or how does it feel that you've said it out loud now? Because we build it up to be this big thing and everybody's going to judge us. But then you say it and you're like, okay, my life's still going on.
Yeah. And it because it is about like what's going on internally, right? And I think also I have this like, oh, look at her, she's doing good in business, and I mean, you guys don't know my net income is, you know, it's growing, but there's 6-figure launches, and like there's some of that like public perception happening, and so I feel a little bit of that extra pressure and that shame, but it wasn't like my mismanagement. Everything I did was out of hope and love. Like
and even if some of it was your mismanagement, that's okay too. We make mistakes.
That's true.
And I also think as small business owners, I mean, I don't know, when you're flipping through your Instagram and Facebook, isn't it just filled with ads from people saying you could make $100,000 in 2 weeks? Like there's so much of that being thrown in our face.
Yes.
And it's like poisoning. Almost it like poisons us against ourselves to start thinking we're failures all the time when we're not making $100,000 every month or whatever. Like these types of your ad, you what are they called, like blowhorn ads or whatever, where they're just like like snake oil, blowhorn, whatever ads.
I don't even know how they get approved. Like technically Facebook doesn't like those, but it's funny. I have one of my pin posts right now is 6 ways to make 6 figures as a VA, but I did it from the context of this is where you're going. And this is how the VA coaches who are like, I make 6 figures, what they're really freaking doing. Like it's so
like what are you really doing? Yeah, it's deception. That's the word I'm looking for. Like this deception. And then there's all of this out there, like quit your 9 to 5 and start a small business and you'll be a millionaire within a year. So I think you have to figure out what's right for you. And I mean, we've already had a discussion here today that like, this was right for us. This was right but this wasn't right for me necessarily financially in the beginning, or, you know, and I'm still building and growing. I like how you said I'm in the growing stage of my business, but choosing to own my own business was what was right for me emotionally, mentally, physically, like spiritually, all those things, right?
But I'm a little in panic mode. So what Shadoe said, even at the beginning with her pause for a pause. Okay, I'm really good at doing that with words, by the way. Every now and then I'm like, oh, hello, Capital One down the street with your 6-figure job. Like, should I come to you? Like, will it make it easy? No, because I won't be able to go to field day. Like my daughter gets off the bus at 3:00 and I have to be there because she's only in 1st grade. And so it's like, I have to remind myself, especially now when things are so uncertain, that like, this is the right track for right now.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And I think that's such a key thing. Thank you for saying that. And I think that's something I had to choose, and we need to remind ourselves to do that. Be rooted in the moment, right? Because we can so easily start to judge ourselves. We can so easily start to worry or panic about the future. We can so easily look at our past and call ourselves failures. But it's weird how everything's kind of tying in today too. Because Shadoe, you again were saying like looking at the positives, right? Instead of being a cynic, it's like you just did it, right? Like, if I did that, and let's be honest, I think every single small business owner does that. Like, oh, maybe I should just go back to a 9 to 5 on the day we're having hard jobs. For sure we do. But you just flipped it, right? Then I wouldn't be able to pick up my daughter from the bus stop, and I wouldn't be able to have this freedom, and I wouldn't be able to do these things. And I check in with myself often, and sometimes I'll just be on my walk and I'll just have this like overwhelming sense of pride in myself that I'm like, I'm a much happier person now than I was 10 years ago. I'm a much more grounded person now than I was 10 years ago. I'm a much less angrier person now than I was 10 years ago. I was an angry person. I'm right. And the choices that we make, we're allowed to celebrate them too.
I love that.
Yeah. And speaking of love, I heard you say it a little earlier where like your decisions are grounded in hope and love. even your decisions that you look back and be like, well, maybe I shouldn't have made that decision. That decision was based on hope and love. And what a beautiful legacy to leave for your life.
Yeah. And not be cynical about it. I'm glad.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but this has happened to me twice now, where I've had a really bad day in my business and I'm just feeling like, oh man, you start piling on, right? You pick away a little bit and then your mind just goes into oh, thankfully now I can just say all the mean things to you. And you beat yourself up and you cry. And then the next morning you open your inbox and there's a brand new client being like, hey, I heard that you do this. Like, can you do this for me? And you're like, were you in my bedroom last night? Because I just was crying last night that I don't have a new client. And then they just like pop up. So I don't know if there's like a magic to that, or not saying go cry every night to get a new client, but that has happened to me twice now in my business where I've had the worst night. And then the very next morning I get a like, hey there.
I think that's one of the things. Sorry, you go ahead, Emily.
I was going to say, I've had so many gifts from the universe, like as I go through deciding to leave and, file for separation. But also in my business, like I've been dragging my feet at doing this whole evergreen webinar, right? Like everyone's like, you need to do this so you can sell. And I do need to sell.
Oh my gosh, I've been dragging on doing a evergreen funnel too.
I can't do live launches like with 4 kids, like I do need to have a mechanism like in the background. But then I'll be like, I don't know. Because I don't do the false income claims. Like I know like other VA coaches do that and it works well for them. It's like not my style. So I've been really dragging my feet. And then I'll wake up to a sale.
Right.
Like I didn't even do anything. One, I mean, I'm not rolling in it and like, oh, affirmation. Like, let me take this. Cause like, I just imagine if I do get the thing done and it does start working. And then I've, built back my IRA.
Yeah, exactly.
I think just like staying present and rooted in the moment is really important because we can, get caught in the worry of the future, the anxiety of the past, the whatever, right? And it's a life skill, being able to stay present in the moment while optimistically planning for the future, but to also be able to stay present in the moment. Because if we're always planning for the future, we're missing we're missing the moment now too.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you were trying to say, Shadoe, is people that have planned it so well, they might be missing out on being in the present because they're so worried about the future. Right. So they're not taking the vacation because they want to save that for when they're retired, or they want to save that for later, or they're not treating themselves to something to be kind to themselves because I'm saving that for later. Like you can also miss out in the moment now. So balance. I don't love the word balance. I like the word alignment better, right? Because balance, like just finding what works for you and being kind to yourself. And it's such a tough one. We're not going to get all the answers, but talking about money is so hard. So I want to thank you so much, Emily, for opening up that can of worms, honestly, because it's the first money conversation that we've had on the podcast. And I hope that we have more because there's so much shame in talking about it. And I think there's so much shame for women to talk about it. And I mean, it's just
I joined a Facebook group for divorced women over 40, and it's so sad. It's actually so sad, but it's also empowering to see all the women lifting each other up. But I will say, like, as my parting advice would be, the cliche advice, and like pretend like I'm in your inner circle, start a credit card in your own name. Your own name, and start building credit in your own name. Because what I found myself in a situation where I'm just an authorized user. And I mean, I did start one for my business a few years ago, and like I did the whole chase thing. Like I'm good. I got some points now, but I'm like, oh, I never thought about that. Like I just went in it so like together that I didn't really think about, how like individually, what might I need? And so like do that.
And it's never too late to start. That's the thing. Yeah. You know, this quote, who said this quote? You don't have to be good to start. You just have to start to be good. Is that the quote?
I like that.
Yeah. So just imperfectly start. Just start. Who cares if you didn't start 20 years ago? Start now.
Yeah. I'm getting a tax refund.
Yay!
And I'm getting a quite large one because I filed differently this year. And I am really excited about what I'm going to do with this money. And I'm excited to invest and like get my nest egg going. And it's like, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a positive thing.
yeah, I want to thank you so much because there's so much shame around talking about money, and let's just talk about it. And we don't have to judge each other, and let's just find solutions and share. And I want to thank you so much because it's very vulnerable talking about money.
It is. I think I've told no one in my audience, my community this.
Yeah. Well, especially as a business owner, like it's very vulnerable talking about money, especially if your audience is other small business owners. Like,
yeah,
I can tell you the example of me too. Like, I'm a wellness person, right? Like emotional, brain, body. But I learned a few years ago, I was like, I'm going to be honest though, right? Like I'm going to, and this is part of the reason why we have the podcast too, is I want my participants to know that I'm a normal human being too, that I suffer from imposter syndrome sometimes.
Yeah.
Because there's this idea that like the people in the wellness field have to be perfect and we have to look up to them. But that's why I told my Me Too story on the last episode, is I want people to know that I've had life experiences and I'm finding solutions that work for me and work for others, but I'm still finding solutions because I'm still not perfect, and that's okay. Yeah. And the thing is when I've told some of these stories, I've never lost participants. I've never lost clients. Nobody's ever said, well, I don't want to take your advice now because you have these feelings, Victoria. People have said, thank you for sharing and being human.
Yep.
Right. And it creates those bigger connections. So
I don't trust people who are perfect. I'm sure Shadoe's in the same boat.
Yeah. No,
we don't trust you.
Yeah. We don't trust the plastics.
No. We did so many circle backs.
Like, so many
smart we are.
Backs. Yeah, we're so smart. That was a circle back too.
Yeah. No, I also had just one more too, where it was like you were talking about skilling your resume. I'm doing that right now as well. And my resume coach was like, "Oh, my resume is a dog's breakfast, but I don't know about yours." No, I shouldn't say that. She's like, "I can definitely help with yours." But something she gave me to think about was the expiration date of certain skills, and how I think because all three of us are very adaptable, it was a question where I went, oh yeah, some skills do expire and you have to reskill. And when that's something I kind of miss about having a 9-to-5, because they are constantly putting you in training.
Yeah.
Like you have to put yourself in training. And I think a lot of these experts have decided like, well, I've learned it all and here I am to teach you, but they're not evaluating. They're not self-evaluating the expiration date of their advice either.
Ooh, that's a big pet peeve of mine. I have to steal your language because what people tell me is they like me because I'm a practitioner. I am doing the work now for clients, and then I'm also teaching, and I'm actually working through this clockwork book. Okay, can we get businessy for a second?
Yeah.
And they need you to come up with your queen bee role. What's your queen bee role?
Okay.
And then that's what you do. And like everyone else can support you for that. So I have a couple like part-time contractors. And so I came up with all these little post-its. I'm like, well, what is my main thing? Like, I'm really bad at this. I'm very like linear here. I don't like that. And like all of these little star post-it notes could be replaced. And then I pulled out this top one that says, teach marketing. So if I can just stay up to date with marketing and like what do clients need and what services can you offer, I am fulfilling my queen bee role, which gives me permission to still do client work, but it doesn't, I have to teach it. And so recently in my work group, I started asking friends like to come in and do their talk and them to teach. And so I've created this community where they can keep reskilling and keeping it up to date. And so I was like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. Because this is what I'm working on in the background of my business is like, how do I pull out of some things, especially coming into this year I'm coming into where I need to be more focused on kids and not, a sauna delegation.
Yeah, for sure. The last thing I'll say to that then is, do you know that Mean Girls, the movie, was based on a book? And the book title is Queen Bees and Wannabes.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. There's something in the air today. We keep circling back. All of our brains, our subconscious brains are just completely in tune with each other today.
I have to bring it back to my resume though. Like I was so embarrassed, like all these random little jobs, like related. My degree was broadcast journalism. I never want to be in front of the camera, by the way. I was the only non-sorority girl. It's coming back.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in front of the camera, who wanted to be
yeah.
behind the camera, telling everyone what to do. And then it was broadcast journalism, electronic media. So anytime I could get a job somewhat related, like I took it. And I didn't make a lot of money, but it was fun. And so I think about that now, and like what I'm doing now, it might not be like being okay with this might not be forever, but like I'm learning the skills to get me to the next.
Yes. Yes.
And that is really what reskilling is all about. Like you're not just like stuck in one place. Like you get to evolve. And to me, that's fun. Like not knowing exactly where I'm going is fun. And some people do choose to learn marketing skills. And I've had some of my own students go get a full-time job and freaking love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like complete 180 from their previous career. And so I was like, that is what's beautiful to me. So anyone's kind of like wondering about their resume and how to transfer it online, it's just become such a sticky point because people don't always see the worth, their self-worth in that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like as opposed to maybe someone who got a broadcast journalism degree and then got a broadcast job and is in that for 20 years. I don't know what the media landscape is in the States, but up here in Canada, it seems like every week all of our major broadcasters are cutting jobs, and thousands of jobs. Like I was just so where I'm from is north of the city, and they don't have weekend news. They don't have news at noon. They only have morning and night. And like my dad's so upset about it. And I'm like, I get the upsetting nature of it. And, and so in a way you almost kind of protected yourself by keeping up new exciting skills as opposed to kind of staying in that one lane, because if anything changes constantly, it's media and the way we consume it. So
the tools, the platforms, the tech, like I was, they opened a new journalism school the year after I graduated. I actually had to splice reel to reel.
Oh,
cool.
Don't tell anyone.
Amazing.
Not old. Yeah. But it's like so different now. Like you have to adapt. It's like the number one soft skill employers look for is comfort with ambiguity, being able to like rise up to challenges and being okay with it.
Great. Amazing, Emily.
We could just keep going.
I think we keep going forever. So, wow, what a great day. We don't usually do this, but do you want to do check out? Like I was a 6 and I think I'm like an 8.5 out of 10 now.
Nice.
So anybody else want to check out on a scale of 1 to 10?
I'm going to stay at a 9 because like I was feeling really good and you guys kind of kept me there, which is nice. But now I have all these questions I want to go answer and research. So
like you're feeling
I'm itchy. I'm not itchy physically. I can't put myself up to a 10 because now I have this like fire.
Well, now you've got some curiosity or fire. Yeah.
I feel like I might have bumped up to it's like at least a 9.5, and I'm going to go check on that bird nest, and then it's going to be a 10.
Yeah, that's going to be 10 and a bird hatching. Well, Emily, I want to thank you so much for coming on this episode. Before we move into our 3 breaths, can you let the listeners know how they can find you if anybody's interested in unicorn digital media in the name of your business, where they can find you, what your socials are, and we will also include all of those in the show notes, everybody. So you get the last word, Emily.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm on Instagram, Emily Reagan PR. That's where I'm having the most fun. And I have a podcast as well called Unicorns Unite, which I invited you, Victoria, to come in, and we'll be doing a show in the late summer. And that is teaching marketing services and how to run a freelance digital service business. So if you're a virtual assistant, that's a place to start diving into marketing. And then I also have a school that teaches marketing services. So if you have been thinking about doing a career switch or a side hustle, you can check out my Unicorn Digital Marketing Assistant School. We have a self-study open now. I haven't done the evergreen webinar, but one day I will. But we have that open all the time. And then we open the school in the fall for a live cohort so we can work through everything together. And then I have one other thing. That work group I was talking about is a membership. So if you are already freelancing, that could be a place to find clients. I've shared over 2,000 clients. I made my own little group of misfits and I collected them and I put them online. And so I help women just advance in marketing and connect with client leads. So that just go to my website, Emily Reagan PR, and you can find all of that good stuff.
Amazing. And of course, we will put it all in the show notes as well.
Perfect. Thanks.
And we always finish off here with 3 breaths. And this is the first episode of a new season. So about every 10 to 15 episodes, I switch up what the 3 breaths are. And so I feel like this is great today because I was planning on switching up the 3 breaths to kind of, we were doing 3 breaths of letting go and 3 breaths of kindness. And we're going to do 3 breaths of abundance this season. So 3 breaths of calling in abundance or calling in being self-aware and just connecting to ourselves. So this is new. Shadoe hasn't done these yet either. So it's the first time we're doing these 3 breaths, everybody. So come on to the front edge of your seat. Put your feet flat on the floor if it is safe for you to do so. If you're driving, please stay focused. And if you want, you can put your hand on your heart. And I just want you to feel your points of contact with the earth. Maybe it's your bum on the seat, your feet on the floor. Take a big breath in and sink down and acknowledge that the earth is always supporting you. Gravity's never going to let you fly away. And you are always supported, and you are worthy and deserving to be here just by being a human being on the face of the planet. And now that we're open and acknowledging that, let's call in some abundance. Taking a big breath in. And as you exhale, saying, I know that my body holds immense wisdom. It can guide me towards healing and wellness. I'm calling into the ability to listen to my body, to my brain, and to learn from it. On this next breath, big breath in, big exhale. I know that I support and give to the lives around me, and I know that my life is a blessing to others. So I'm calling in the opportunities to connect to others, to be of service, and to give. And on this last one, take a big breath in, big exhale out. I'm choosing to believe that I am magnificent. I am calling in being open to easily receiving love and connection, and to easily seeing the joy, connection, strength, and love in my life. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us on the Let's Relieve Regret podcast. Thank you so much to our guest, and we will see you in the next one, everybody. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye. This episode of Let's Relieve Regret was produced by Shadoe Ball and Victoria Muir-Bercia.
Editing by me, Victoria Muir-Bercia.
We are an independent podcast supported by you, our listeners.
If you think this podcast sends a valuable message, you had an aha moment, or learned something new about yourself, help us realize our goal of reaching as many listeners as possible.
We encourage you to take action and support us right now by choosing one of the following options.
You can easily support us by
following us on Instagram at relieve.regret.
Tell 2 friends.
Leave a 5-star review on whatever app you're listening to us on.
Leave a tip at coffee.com/Let's Relieve Regret podcast. That's ko-fi.com/Let's Relieve Regret podcast.
Join our conversations in the Facebook group, Let's Relieve Regret Podcast.
Find all this information, all the links, and more in the podcast notes. Okay, bye.
Bye.